As you can see in this screen capture of our Facebook poster, I indicated that the object, which we refer to as the second sun, is gradually moving to a position that puts it slightly above the ecliptic plane of our solar system, where all of the planets are situated as they move in their counterclockwise orbits around our sun. It also appears that the object of interest is beginning its closest approach to the sun, which we call perihelion. As Marshall has indicated in his analysis, the official time of this capture for this location was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, time of sunset on the date of capture, May 12th, was at approximately 8:20 in the evening. This would make the timing of this video capture rather unusual, in that most observations up until this time have been either at sunset or during sunrise. So as you can see here, that places the position of this object of interest above the horizon and at the point of the ecliptic. If we take into consideration that the Earth's axis is tilted at 23.5 degrees from the plane of its orbit. The object of interest is labeled in this frame so that you can see its relative position to the planets on the ecliptic plane. According to the observational sky charts, both Venus and Mercury are well below the sun and not in our field of view. So although the point of view of the observer relative to the sun would place the object of interest at the 4 o'clock position, the actual location would be relative to the ecliptic. It therefore places the object slightly above the ecliptic at the 2 o'clock position relative to the sun. This is quite frankly disturbing from one very interesting reason. For some time now, most observations of the incoming object or system of objects, depending on what we are observing at any particular time, would place their position somewhere behind the sun, as its presence was primarily observable during either sunrise or during sunset. Since this video observations were this particular video were made several hours before sunset on May 12th, an astute observer of this phenomenon would have to consider the probability that this object of interest is nearing the point of perihelion, its closest approach to the sun. If the analysis is correct, and then the celestial body, which is just one of several that are accompanying this binary system, will eventually move into a position that will place it squarely between us and the sun, thus leading to the 3 days of darkness that so many have spoke of both in scripture and in prophecy. There is one more very important aspect of the analysis that Mr. Masters conducted. In his gamma testing, he experienced in accurate detail the difference between a real entity and a lens flare refraction. As you can see here, there are two distinctly bright sources of light present in the video frame, the second sun appearing behind the cloud, whereas the faint green object is appearing in front of the tree branch, this being a lens flare. In the next frame, the gamma is reduced by 50%. The hot objects are persistent, but the green object is beginning to fade. By the time the gamma is reduced by 75%, the green object is gone. Finally, when the gamma is reduced by 90%, all that remains is the two objects in the sky. Everything else has turned to dark. Marshall Masters' video frame analysis clearly indicates that the object of interest is a celestial body in space. It is not an anomaly or an aberration. Most importantly, his analysis confirms what we have been saying all along. There is something perturbing the natural rhythm of our solar system, and this has been happening for quite some time now. We have been seeing the effects of this perturber here on Earth in the way of extreme climate change and in the way of significant Earth change. all of which are contributing to an extended tilt of the Earth's axis towards the magnetic influence of this great perturber. You can learn more about the Slovakia video by going to our Facebook page and following the link located here. We are committed to keeping our comments open and available to our viewers, but we ask that you refrain from objectionable discourse. In the meantime, stay safe, remain focused on your surroundings, and keep looking to the sky. They said it was virtually knocking at our door. The story was covered on the front page of the Washington Post and the New York Times, two of the most prestigious newspapers in the world. Soon afterwards, then President Ronald Reagan made the declaration part of the United States national security mandate, which in political terms means he made it illegal for astronomers, scientists, government agencies, and institutions of learning from speaking publicly about this discovery. He forced this mandate because he was convinced that the public would panic if they understood that a large planetary body was entering our solar system that had the potential to cause global cataclysms on an epic scale. He convinced other nations to follow suit, and it then became top secret information, where only bits and pieces were allowed to leak out to the public. There are many stories from ancient civilizations the world over that describe a large planetary body that returns to our solar system periodically, causing destruction in the form of superfloods, earthquakes, and volcanic activity. If you take the writings of the Sumerian world, considered the cradle of civilization, and compared them to the stories spoken by the Aborigines of Australia and the teachings of Holy Scripture with respect to wormwood, you will discover that each of these stories has a similarity that cannot be considered a coincidence. And here's why. The Sumerians were the people of Babylonia who actually named this planet Nibiru, or Planet of the Crossing, and did this in their own language. One of the reasons why this is so convincing is that the Sumerians actually discovered Pluto and included it in their model of our solar system, which is in direct contradiction to the fact that our own astronomers didn't announce the discovery of Pluto until 1930. If you have done any research, you may know why public and private astronomers alike are searching the sky for the elusive planet. In 1894, Percival Lowell, a wealthy American businessman, financed the building of the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. Part of the Lowell Observatory's original mandate was to specifically look for the mysterious planet, thus establishing profound proof that America knew of its existence over 100 years ago. They searched the skies for over 30 years and thought they had found it in 1930, but it turned out to be what we call Pluto, and determined it wasn't large enough to be Planet X. This compelling piece of evidence is not widely known or talked about, but shows that certain groups within American society knew of this planet's existence and its potential for devastation. Although rarely talked about, the phenomenon of an increase in the Earth's wobble observed by the public worldwide is included in the top 5 reasons for its numbers of observations made by the public. Here's an important observation that has been reported by farmers around the world, who are consistently viewing the sky as part of their livelihood as the world's food producers. Since the year 2005, they have been noticing how the sun and the moon have been rising and setting in abnormal positions. Now, there can be no mistake about this, where all other normal planets reside. It enters our solar system from the galactic south. That is exactly why this system can be seen more easily from the southern hemisphere. And this is why large astronomical observatories have been built in this part of the world. there is sufficient evidence of an abnormal Earth wobble. They include unusual changes in the jet stream resulting in extreme weather-related events, an increase in tectonic stress, an increase in volcanic eruptions, and the melting of the polar ice caps, which have been thoroughly documented by leading scientists and geologists. Irrefutable photos and videos of second sun sightings the world over is another evidential link that cannot be ignored. Some will say every one of these images are indicative of lens flares, unless they can be proven without a shadow of a doubt. Yes, of course, we live in a digital age of computer graphics and technology. Some can be easily faked or misidentified as lens flares or sundogs, dust smudges, or some natural phenomenon. But many are not, and those that are not fake are usually the ones that are subsequently removed. Why would you censor them if they were in fact fake? The censorship of Planet X information is very compelling. But if something is real and is then deleted, it can no longer be used as evidence because it will be inaccessible to the public. In the past, I have had to delete a number of profound links and videos from articles published on my media news sites because they have been removed from the internet for reasons that cannot be explained. One of the most compelling reasons for the existence of Planet X has to do with the so-called secret preparations that the world's governments have been conducting since the mid to late 1970s. I talked in length about this in my previous video, which coincidentally sparked a considerable amount of interest across social media and in the channel comments section of the video description. The preparations that are ongoing include, but are not necessarily limited to, underground sanctuaries and military installations. Stockpiling of supplies, which include food, water, seeds, weapons, ammunition, gasoline, and other pertinent necessities for survival. FEMA has constructed ready-made camps in various locations in the United States, away from coastlines. The camps are sitting there empty, but why exactly were they built? For what purpose? In China, they have constructed ghost cities within their vast interior, well away from coastal areas, populated by rural residents at the insistence of the Chinese military. The construction of camps can be interpreted as meaning one thing. They are anticipating the destruction or the elimination of large populations of their own citizens. One can determine that its purpose is to keep the impending cataclysms a secret for as long as possible. Unexplainable phenomena should be enough to convince even the most die-hard naysayer that our planet is changing exponentially. Since the beginning of the millennium, leading up to the present time, there has been a considerable increase in all of the events shown here. All of these events have one common denominator, the increase in the Earth's wobble, which can only be caused by another large magnetic influence in our solar system. But remember this one important reality. These events can be easily explained away and censored by the mainstream media and the powerful elite. The concerns of the public can be quickly quelled just by saying that these are natural events or events caused by human negligence.